Alright, I think let's try some 10-minute. Mix it up, because we're playing a lot of 5-minute before. So d4, d5, let's see if the Jobava London holds up in 10-minute chess. I don't know if it will. Usually I only play Jobava London in Bullet and Blitz, because it's tricky and it's hard to defend against the Jobava London attacks, but in this case, I'm going to try and see if it works in 10-minute chess. It should. At least theoretically, the Jobava London is a theoretically sound opening. Which means that even if black plays perfectly, it's still equal, like most other openings. Like most other good openings are equal. Here, one option is to take and then plant your knight here. Queen e2 is another idea. I'm going to try to talk a bit less during the game. And I'll explain my thought process after. Idea castle queenside. Knight b4. Some tension. I want to execute my plan, just castle. But I'm afraid after castles, takes, knight goes back. That's fine. Let's do that. But c6 is a very good move. I'll probably go bishop back to d3. That move seems a bit suspicious. I think one thing I can do is take, and take. Take, luring the queen onto a square where it can go knight e5 is somewhat attractive. Alternatively, I can take right now, giving black the option of takes, go there, then they take, then I take. Yeah, really, I think this is good. I'm happy to do this. And here, I had an idea. Idea to go like this first, and then after queen a4, I go a3. I like my position. That's all I'm going to conclude. I have very nice position overall. If I go c4, knight takes d4. And if I go takes, there's takes, and then here, and then you can take. You can also take if we want. You can also go c3 if we want. Let's go c3. Let's go c3. Let's take this way, so that if they try to hold on to the pawn, we go on passant. Now we just try to win the pawn. f5 is definitely much better, I think, except maybe I have g4 ideas. Then attack. Now this I'm not scared of. Here I've already won the pawn completely. If they trade queens, we can, or even if they don't, we always have options to push our pawns. For example, f4, going for some g4, f5, c6 was played. Really, I think white has a big advantage here. Just gaining space. Move f5 is now very much possible. My opponent is pushing pawns here, but I'm not scared of that. It's taking a long time for them to execute their plans. Yeah, f5. White uses that pawn phalanx to try to break through and definitely welcomes the trade. Rook here. Maybe they want to go like this. So one idea we can do is this, but then that walks into this. Yeah, I want to prevent the idea of c5. I'm suspicious that that will lead to counterplay. I don't want to allow a5. Now I calculate king b2, takes, and then I can trade a pair of rooks before the other rook gets the chance to go back. I should still have an advantage here. And I can push my pawns. So idea, before they're able to double, like rook a4, I first trade a pair of rooks. Rook a4, okay. I'm not scared of that because I'm able to blockade this. And now that I've blockaded that, now this rook is tied down to defending the pawn. And with my other rook, or with my pawns, I can make something happen. I have an idea as well. I can reroute the rook here, and then that frees up my king to go here. But that also takes a long time. I could also push my pawns, or I could go here. I'm going to go here. Flexible move for now. If I go here, there might be this. And I go here. Okay, so that's fine. I have an idea. I have an idea. I have an idea, but ideas could change any move. G6. Alright. Let's go b5. Rook d8, I have rook f4. So I'm not worried about that. Now I'm getting somewhere. Now I'm getting somewhere. This is collapse. This is what collapse looks like. Really, there's nothing to be done for black. Alright, go here. Black is in zugzwang. Has to concede a square. And g5, I can just go h5, h5, g5. And now black has to move the king and concede space to me. Yeah, this is just a breakthrough. 2 extra pawns. And just to go here, this pawn is breaking through. This one going there. Alright, you know what? Let's promote to a queen. And let's use the king to eat these pawns. Eating the pawns. And then promote to a second queen. And then let's do like this, a ladder checkmate. So, opponent resigned, good game. Interesting game. I didn't play that well, I think. I don't know. We'll see. This is a very interesting game. So, e6, bishop f4, bishop d6, e3. Now, bishop d6, e3 is what I choose to play, and ef4, you might think that, why am I allowing this double pawns? Isn't it ruining my pawn structure? It does somewhat shatter the pawns, but the point is that you're able to get a clamp on e5, and if you castle either way, you can put a rook on e1, so you have kind of a clamp on the position. That's one of the main ideas of this system I'm playing. Now knight c6, I feel that is inaccurate because it blocks the pawn. Not too inaccurate, but I feel it's not the best. Knight c6, knight f3, bishop d7, bishop b5. Maybe a bit inaccurate as well. My idea, I guess, that I had during the game is if knight f6, I can just trade and jump my knight into e5, and this knight kind of dominates here. But I suppose this might be a little bit of a bad habit from blitz. Maybe more flexible as queen e2 castle, you're not yet deciding where to put the bishop. Like knight h6 castles, knight f5, rook e1, castles, g4. Typical Jobava London style with this attack going on the king side. And it's going to be a fun game, is what it looks like. 2 pawns like this. I'm going to try to attack. And say they go like b5 or something. It's going to be an interesting game. Maybe they just sacrifice the pawn. Maybe they go a5. Maybe they go a6 and then b5. You know, very complicated looking. Not really complicated, but just attacking game on opposite sides, opposite side castling. So instead I went bishop e5, knight f6 was played, and I was thinking a little bit. I was really debating whether to take, and after knight e5, I think that maybe the bishop would go back here, and I wasn't sure I had a big advantage, but this is also fairly good. I played queen e2, which is also okay. Trying to go castles long or castles short. I'm actually not committing either one. I could go long or short. So this is fine, I think. But maybe in another game I could consider the idea of takes and 95, which I've used with success in my blitz games before. But in this one I decided to try queen e2. Knight b4 is, I thought it was fairly okay, and I castled here. Now if I had taken, I think that actually taking here, I just realized is kind of dangerous for black, because after a3, knight c6, I can go knight takes d5, taking advantage of the pinned e-pawn. So queen takes d7 is kind of necessitated, and then after knight e5, queen e7, let's just say castles, knight d7, position remains complicated, but I think black is okay. But white is slightly better because of this space advantage. For example, castles and a3, and knight takes e5, takes, knight c6, and white just has an ever so slight advantage because of these pawns, giving them a space advantage, giving white a space advantage. So another possibility, or what I played was castle, which is fine. I was a little bit concerned about giving up my bishop pair after c6 and takes. But actually, this rook lift is very important because say black castles, then I can go knight e5, and then because the rook is already here, it can lift to h3, and g4, g5 incoming, and queen h5, black is under serious danger here. So I justified that, and I thought that was okay. So that's why I castled. And knight takes e4. Okay. So knight e4, I think, critical move, perhaps a critical mistake of the game. And here, there's so many good moves that I was in the game, I was like thinking a long time. I could either trade here, I could take here, and those are, I would say, the two main moves I was looking at. In the end, I decided to take this, take, and then go knight e5, and then a3, which was correct indeed, and then c3. Okay. But let's examine the other approach, which was to take the bishop, and then after takes, again, there's two good moves. I could go knight e5, or I could just take this. But this leads to some complications after I have to calculate knight takes, because takes, there's a takes check. So knight take, if I go knight e5, it's intermediate move, and that needs to be considered. But the interesting thing is I can take with the pawn attacking this, and after takes king b2, this knight is trapped, so if you try to hold on to it, I have rook a1 winning it. So knight e5, knight takes e3 is therefore not that good. So queen e7 is, or moving the queen somewhere is good, the only good move. And then after trading the knights, then I can consider a move like a3, king b1. I wouldn't really want to go here because that allows this for no reason. So first playing a safe move like king b1, and then keeping the option for this is good. And notice it's impossible for them to hang on to the pawn, or it's very dangerous for them to hang on to the pawn, because it weakens their king, it weakens the diagonal, and queen h5, g6. And here the typical move, knight takes g6, is a fairly standard trick, taking advantage of the pawn, but actually after queen f7 it doesn't work here. Still, after f3, takes, black has a lot of weaknesses, in particular the e6 pawn, and that can be targeted with rook e1, and if black castles here, white always has ideas like g4, attacking and opening up files to attack the black king. Anyways, that goes deep. So instead I just took the knight, and then I took the bishop, and then I went knight e5. Here I could have also just taken. After takes, king b1, queen a4, that knight doesn't look very good after c3, so very dangerous for black. And if the knight goes to b4, then white is already castled. White has good development, so I assume this is just good for white. And queen takes b4, and you need to spend another move defending the knight, say queen a4, but that drops this, and this just doesn't look too good for white. And black is not in time to generate an attack, say this, because white has already developed, can just run the king. This gets complicated. So anyways, instead of queen takes e4, I played knight e5 first, queen d5, a3. That was essentially the only move, because I didn't want to weaken my king with c4, getting into a position where my king has like less cover for no reason. And also I had to calculate this. If I go here, already black has saved their knight and their queen, and they have some sort of attack. Like if I take here, knight b4, already queen a2 becomes a threat. If I do nothing, queen a2 is common pattern. Something like this, and black is much better. And just castles at least, black is better. So I played a3, reasonable move, knight c6. Here I played c3, but what I thought was that if I go c4, I should be scared of knight takes d4, and I calculated takes. If I go king d2 is knight takes f4, which is what I calculated, and black is winning material here, and I thought there was no need to go for that. What I didn't see was that after c4, knight takes d4, white has the intermezzo, queen h5, attacking the f7 pawn. After g6, then we take, and then take. Now white's up a piece, so I didn't see that. Otherwise, I would have played c4. There's also the move, instead of queen h5, also the move queen e3, also saving the queen. After knight f5, then you can do the same exchange, this time taking the knight like that. And in either case, white is up a piece at the end. But I played c3, which is a practical and solid move, but not the best move. Knight takes e5, f takes e5, castles, and I quickly go to attack this pawn. Here, I think black should have maybe tried to hold on to the pawn, because if I take en passant and then I take this, black gets a rook onto the second rank. But the line continues. If I take, and now I get a rook on 7th rank. So although material is equal, white has a little bit more advanced pawns, and I would say slightly more active pieces, because white currently has this threat. Black has a threat too. Game can continue like this, and white has a slight advantage because it's easy to push this pawn and promote it. And it just gets very complicated, and maybe that's why the opponent didn't go for that, instead playing a6, but that simply gives up the pawn without a fight. And after this, I think the game is much easier. I simply have an extra pawn. And in this endgame, I'm up a pawn, and I need to win this game, so rook f d8, f4, maybe something like king c2 is more flexible, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to go f4 or g4. Also, g4 is possible. I was slightly worried about g5, because now f4 they can take, but looking at it now, it still looks good for me, so I shouldn't have been worried about it. In either case, I want to play both f4 and g4, go for the expansion, to try to gain space and put pressure on black's position. f4, c6, it's okay, just a bit solid. g4, b5, f5, rook d5. I play b4 because if I just do something, I'm a bit worried that c5 is going to happen. And there could be some b4, and if the rooks get active, they could be attacking my king. So that's why I played b4 to completely stop the idea of c5. a5, king b2, takes, and here I quickly go to exchange a pair of rooks. And I think that was a big mistake, taking or leaving the rook here. I think taking and trying to defend, also possible, but also difficult actually. So after this, it's a big mistake because my king can just watch over this pawn, and then the rook has to be tied down on this column of the board to watch over the pawn always. And that frees up my rook and my pawns to do whatever they want. So I go rook e2, h6, and c4. I thought maybe black could try something like rook d8, just giving up the pawn, trying to see if they could get counterplay on my weakened d4 pawn. But I can simply defend it, and I suppose they have to go back. And then I can trade and start making my own passed pawn. So in any case, black went king f8. I went here. I went f6 because if takes, now the rook gets active here. That's also very bad for black. So g6, d5, and rook c2, cutting off the black king. Important move, so it doesn't get around here and stop my pawn. Rook a5, now king b4, attacking the rook, defending the pawn, and then I can swing my rook here, and the rest is just easy. And trading rooks, this is just completely lost for black. And after this position, black is in Zugzwang because now black can't move any of the pawns, and when you move the king, you're going to yield a square, and that's going to be fatal because I have not only a passed pawn, I also have the idea to break. And if you take, I can just go e6. If you take, then I can go f7, f8 equals queens. So that's what happened. I pushed my pawns, and then I pushed my pawns, and this is just a runaway passer. And the rest was elementary. That was my game in the Jobava London 10-minute game. It's my first 10-minute game since making these videos. And this just shows that Jobava London holds up even in longer time controls. And this is really fun, so hopefully I can make more videos like this. And I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.